What Xenos did the human empire fight during the Dark Age of technology, and what weapons could they have used? Within any environment, weapons are developed to meet certain needs, be it a bow and arrow to catch food for hunters, or a new type of warfare emerging, like armoured warfare opening up. They are all signs of a specific type of enemy needing to be fought with a weapon to match. So I've picked a number of interesting weapons from the Dark Age of technology, and I'm trying to match them with Xenos races that might have been around to harass at that time. This is of course highly speculative. Timestamps in the description, and let's begin. Chrono weapons may have been developed to fight the Hrud. That's my first theory. Why are they a match made in heaven? They move through the galaxy in ships known as a migration fleet, and when they find a planet, the Hrud dig out a warren deep beneath and into the bones of the world. Any who fight them will see their time warping abilities, and this shows in their armour and weapons. Their entropic fields make them hard to see. Most shots taken at them will become decayed and inert with the field's effects, and if a space marine gets too close, they might age 1,000 years in a minute. So chrono weapons are a great answer to that ability, in my opinion. The effect of the weapon varies depending on how well it hits and the range of the weapon. If it gets you, it could cause you to freeze in time, crumble as time in a small area around you accelerates forward to your end, or a more powerful version might cause you to collapse into a black hole. That last one is mounted on a Dark Age of technology ship called the Speranza, an Arc Mechanicum ship. So as well as hurtling you forward in time to your doom, they can also heal. The Mechanicum have an uncreated gauntlet, which if used right can reverse, restoring the Mechanicum's greatest desire to see ancient technology. It can restore the item to its peak or show what it might have been in separate parts so the members of the Mechanicus can figure out how it would have worked. The Crux Anima, which is famously in a Titan of the Emperor's making to a degree, and amongst many interesting effects, it can reverse damage done to the Titan. So my idea is to turn the greatest strength back on the Hrud, control the time around them, counter their entropic field. We are told these chrono weapons can also heal and decay, so those effects might reverse the protection the Hrud have. Think of it as a counter, almost a way to strip back that shielding that might open them up to a more conventional attack such as their bolter or the wonderful whir of a chainsword. Next up is the ontological weapon, better known it seems as the Retcon gun. I think they might have been developed to fight Chaos or Eldari. The Retcon gun stars in Lion L. Johnson, Lord of the First, probably my favourite Primarch novel. It's described as a monstrous ancestor of the bolter family, massive barreled, fed by a multitude of plastic hoses that are locked into the Marine's armour's power plant. It was made for a man of iron or another type of upgraded soldier during the Dark Age, so perhaps if that's the case, then it might have been a fairly common weapon, but it needs a lot of power as you can see, but that does make sense for what it can do. When the Marine unleashes it, we see its true potential. A spray of explosive, psychoactive rounds incinerated the tightly packed mortals, body and soul, each individual screaming into a pyre that burned across 2 realms. Aravane countered 25 men, armed with stub pistols and wrenches, gone. A second after he had countered them, they were no longer there. Every ripple and echo that suggested they had ever existed was eradicated, and even Aravane's eidetic recall struggled to conjure any details of that appearance, except that there had been 25 people armed with stub pistols and wrenches, so just those basic details left in the Marine's fantastic mind. Now, this on Chaos, it could remove the body of the demon and ensure they can't return, which is usually what happens. Look how many times Commander has been spammed back to life through Revive by Khorne. This weapon would ensure that the threat ends there and then, and it removes that character as well as the memories of them across time. Within the warp, time does not exist. It only touches demons when they reach the Materium. So could this wipe them out in the warp and forever have existed at all? It's an intriguing possibility that fits well. My other thought was the Eldari. Dark Age of Technology humanity seemed to have peaceful relations with the Eldari. They even built a facility together. Cole visits it in Genefather. One of the Eldari's most powerful weapons is their minds, their psychic ability, and hitting them there would remove that threat, and the person behind it, with no chance of reincarnation. Soul Stones were developed around the time of the fall, so they would not have been available at this time. I think if these empires were around, there could have been some small-scale interactions or warfare between them. Why else would they build a facility together to make peace and trade? Finally, I propose the Orks might have been the drive to develop disintegration technology and weapons. It's fair to say that's a fairly decent way to eliminate anyone, except of course, with Orks there is an additional threat after death. My understanding is when an Ork dies, they give off spores, and when the time arises, these will develop into early stages of Orks like Squigs and Gretchen, and some will eventually become full Orks. So if their body is completely eliminated, disintegrated, then that lessens the chance of them spreading spores and starting that revival cycle. I believe they molt off a lesser amount when they're alive, so this wouldn't be entirely effective, but could maybe lessen them enough in terms of their numbers to keep the Orks genuinely manageable. So here are a few examples of disintegration technology that might have worked. First, it has to be the Volkite weapons. This disintegrator technology is used primarily by the Martians prior to the Great Crusade. It was in effect also used elsewhere before, but has fallen out of favour by the time of the Great Crusade, replaced by a tech that's easier to replicate and maintain. Disintegrator weapons go back further still. These are old weapons from before the Wars of Unity, from the golden age of humanity. Volkite burns away organic matter, turning flesh through an explosion to ash and fire. A good shot and you will combust. They're my two second choices. The atomizer weapon is a relic from the Dark Age of technology, one of the most horrific weapons of war fielded by the Death Watch, Space Marines of the Jericho Reach. They resemble bulky multi-melters with a heavily shielded back-mounted power unit. The weapon fires a blast of heavily irradiated particles that effectively melts living creatures, blowing their individual cells apart and boiling them alive from the inside. Atomizer weapons can even sometimes have been known to set fire to metals and ceramite momentarily before utterly disintegrating them. Or the Rad Cleanser, a potent weapon said to be a relic of the long past Dark Age of technology, and they are certainly powerful and terrible enough in effect to justify that mythic claim. Victims caught in the Rad Cleanser's blast suffer an agonizing death as their tissues are blown apart on a cellular level and they are boiled alive from within. Even metals may combust in the powerful blast created by a Rad Cleanser. So those are my three ideas. I really want to find some sort of weapon that could have been used to counter the Men of Iron, perhaps used by humanity to fight against them, but I couldn't find anything at the moment. Hopefully I'll stumble across something like that in the future and bring that to you then. Right now my thoughts are that they would have used other AI to fight the AI. There seems to be a scale where there were AI fighting on both sides during this cybernetic revolt, but at some point humanity could not distinguish one from the other, which is a fair claim, and eventually they all turned against humanity. And if you like this video on 40k, then why not try this one? And if you want a bunch of videos on 40k, I've got two playlists on the channel. One covers everything, one covers specifically the Dark Age of technology. This video will be in there, but there'll be a ton of others as well. I also cover Trench Crusade on the channel, which shares a lot of DNA with 40k, and there's a playlist for that on the channel as well. Hope you enjoyed the video. Drop me a comment with your opinions and thoughts. We're very interested to hear them, and I'll see you again soon.